Welcome to the session on the pricing quirks of the Medicare physician fee schedule. What we're going to do is start with the page that shows you the physician fee schedule lookup, and then we're going to go to a Medicare administrative contractor page to explain what some of those indicators are. So first, you should see that this is the CMS website, specifically the physician fee schedule overview. And this tells you what the physician fee schedule is and the parts of it. In order to use it, we have to actually click on this Start Search. This takes us to the search criteria. Now, for the sake of making things easier, actually there's a page in between here where you have to agree to the licensing of CPT codes, which we've already done to speed the conversation. So once you get to this search criteria, you have a variety of options. And what we're looking for in this particular discussion are the payment policy indicators, which you can see here. And we've defaulted to the year 2018. We're going to look at just one code, again, for the sake of the discussion. And we've chosen all modifiers. You can see that that list of modifiers is fairly extensive. So you can choose the global modifiers, professional component, technical component, procedures which the physician terminated before completion, or all modifiers. Then you'd hit submit, and that takes us to this page. So for our 2018 payment policy indicators for a single code with all modifiers at the national level, for our X-ray of the lumbosacral spine, that's what this is, L/S, lumbosacral spine, 2 to 3 views. This is just an abbreviation of what the code means, because the code definitions can be extremely long. Now, if we wanted to look at everything to do with this code, we could look at all the information, including participating and non-participating payment rates. There's also a section for limiting charge for facilities and providers. We're not looking at those sections right now. That was in a different discussion. What we're looking for right now are the procedural status, the PCTC indicators, the global surgery, multiple services indicators, bilateral services indicators, assistant surgery indicators, co-surgeon indicators, team surgeon indicators, physician supervision indicators, and diagnostic imaging family indicators. Wow, that sounds like a lot of indicators, doesn't it? And what do all of these things mean in here? Well, let's start with the modifier. So the modifiers, we could change the way that they're listed, but we're not going to do that. Just going to leave them the way they are. We have a blank here in the modifier. That means the global code is the one that they're applying here, which means that both the technical component and the professional component are being applied on this line item. Okay. Modifier 26 is the professional component, which is a little less than half of the code, in some cases slightly more. The TC modifier is the technical component and applies to just this line. Okay. So let's see, what do all the rest of these things? What is procedure status A? In order to find that out, we're going to go look at our other tab here. This is one of our Medicare administrative contractors. This one happens to be for Florida, which we've chosen because it is fairly simple to understand. And we've gone to the Part B fee resources and the payment policy indicators simply to understand what those indicators mean. So we're going to scroll down here. These are all the possible options. So you see, modifiers just explained essentially what I just said. Modifier 53 is a discontinued procedure, which we talked about a moment ago. Scrolling down further, let's look back to our schedule results for a moment. Our procedure status was A. Okay, so remember our procedure status is A. So this is saying a code status, essentially the same thing. A meaning an active code. Okay. Let me see if I can make this a little bit wider. Hang on one second. All right, there we go. So you can see it's an active code. If you had any other indicator in there, saying, for example, B might be a bundled service, meaning that it's included in the service of some other code. Well, what does that mean? A bundled service is, for example, a diagnostic colonoscopy is included in a surgical colonoscopy. Okay, why would that be? Well, a diagnostic colonoscopy is essentially getting in there and looking around. A surgical colonoscopy is getting in there, looking around, and cutting out what needs to be cut out. So you have to assume that you're looking around before you're cutting things out. It's just logical assumption. So there are some codes that are necessarily considered part of other codes already. So this is what we call bundled. And the way you can find bundled codes is in the National Correct Coding Initiative. There's an entire table of Code 1, Code 2 edits. And you'll find a whole bunch of information about bundling there. All right. Moving on, we have C, which is carrier priced codes, okay, which means an individual administrative contractor will have to price that, usually on an individual basis, such as an operative report. Usually these are unusual cases or surgeries that maybe have a different or unspecified name. So sometimes there are codes that are unspecified gastric surgery because maybe there hasn't been a code developed for that particular type of surgery yet. Or perhaps there was an unusual complication due to the anatomy of the patient, and so on. So that might be a carrier priced case. All right, then you have Deleted codes excluded by regulation. Deleted or discontinued codes. Okay. Scroll down here a little bit. Deleted modifiers. Oh, not valid for Medicare purposes. Okay, now apparently this is no longer effective as of January 1st, 2005, so you shouldn't see this anymore. Those codes just don't show up in the list. You should see I instead. Anesthesia services will use a J, just to identify that these are anesthesia services. Okay. L codes you shouldn't see anymore at all because the local codes went away with HIPAA in 2003. Measurement codes, these are part of PQRS and MACRA. So these are just measurement codes, meaning that Medicare is aware of them for reporting purposes, but there's not expected to be a reimbursement or RVUs or any work value associated with them. They're purely for reporting purposes only. Okay, so N is non-covered services. P is bundled or excluded codes again. Scrolling down a bit more. All right, and our last few are Q for therapy. R is restricted coverage. T is RVUs and payment amounts for these services, but only if there are no other services billed on the same date. And then X is for statutory exclusion. Okay, as in this is not something that should be paid to a physician ever. Okay, now let's go back to our other indicators. All right, let's look at our PCTC and global. I think we can remember those. PCTC is 1 and global is X. The reason we have the global surgery indicators is to tell us how long we have postoperatively to consider whether we're allowed to bill the services or not. So the global surgery package is really the length of time after a surgery occurs that a patient is considered to be healing, and any visits or follow-ups are part of that surgery. So we have some that have 0-day indicators, meaning that there's really no healing time. We have some 10-day globals, which are really minor procedures, and we expect that patients might be seen within those 10 days as follow-up, but really it's a minor procedure. Most major procedures are 90 days. Okay, in some cases, these are maternity codes, so usually the global period doesn't apply. And in our particular case, the XXX means global concept does not apply. This is not a surgical procedure, and therefore it doesn't apply at all. It doesn't make sense for there to be a global concept for X-rays. For Y procedures, the carrier determines whether or not the post-op period applies, and for Zs, these codes are related to another service and are already included in the global of another service. So think of this as the bundling of a global service. All right, so what we have left here are multiple surgeries, bilateral, assistant, co-surgeon, team surgeon, and we have 0 indicators on those. We're going to look a little more deeply at physician supervision. We have 9 and 1, and then the diagnostic family indicators. These are important for our diagnostics. These will be different for our different kinds of codes. Oh, as we're going through here, you notice our PCTC indicator is actually 1, which says diagnostic tests or radiological services, that there is a PCTC option. Okay, moving on down here. Let's see, remember our bilateral surgery, we had it with a 0, so that says if it was done right and left, that we have 150% payment adjustment for bilateral procedures does not apply, and it gives examples. Our assistant at surgery, again, was 0. Payment restriction for assist at surgery applies to the procedure unless supporting documentation is submitted to establish medical necessity. Again, this is an X-ray, so it wouldn't make logical sense to have an assistant surgeon at this case. Okay, the same thing with co-surgeons and team surgeons. All right, now we have our physician supervision of diagnostic procedures. We have a 1, if you recall, we had a 1 here. Procedure must be performed under general supervision of a physician. And we also had an 09. That 09 was under the technical component. Right? That 09 was under the technical component because the technical component does not require physician oversight. All right, we're moving down. So we're running out of time, but I wanted you to see that most of this information that we found on our pricing information can also be found in the reference data of either CMS or our fiscal intermediaries. There are many different ways that providers are paid under the Medicare physician fee schedule. So you just have to know what you're looking for, and the best way to do that is to slow down and read everything you can. I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you for attending this session.